Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a wonderful week of football predicting and just everything going on in sports. It's been a great October. Can you believe it? We are going into week 7 of the NFL season, week 8 of the college football season. But this past weekend, we were celebrating you, James. Wedding weekend, it went well.
Yeah, it seemed to me like everyone was having fun. So it's a good party. It was classy. Everyone got drunk. So now because of it, I got sick. So went off to the honeymoon in Albuquerque, and now I have a hoarse voice and my sinuses are all congested. But hey, better now than during the wedding.
Yeah, that's true. If it was during the wedding, that would have been rough. But when you're around that many people these days, it just feels like you're just asking for it. At least that's for
Yeah,
me.
I mean,
But
hopefully it wasn't a super spreader, right? Super spreader, but like, yeah, you're just bound to get sick. It seems like
who knows? Maybe you caught it in New Mexico.
yeah.
You
Maybe
know,
it's all the
that's
green chili I consumed.
that might be it. But weekend was great. I had a lot of fun. South Dakota was a great time. Got to see some of the fun touristy places up there, and it didn't snow, which is good. I was happy about that. It was good weather. Um, but let's jump into some football.
Yeah, it was.
We didn't watch a whole lot this weekend for obvious reasons. But we are still going to be making our picks. Not too much looking back to last week, so we're going to be moving forward and basically jumping right on into it. Um, is that good with you, James?
Yeah, sounds great with me. My
Yeah.
Cardinals lost. I saw that as an update on my phone. I actually went perfect in my ESPN pick'em. Unfortunately, I noticed that in our last podcast, I picked the Jets and not the Bills, or else I would have gone double perfect. But is what it is.
Yeah, the only thing I really watched fairly closely was I watched the Oregon Ohio State game while at the wedding on a phone. Outside of that, not too much football watching. I went to Deadwood on Sunday, so I was kind of jumping from screen to screen. But overall, from a pick'em standpoint, I did well. From a fantasy standpoint, it was an awful week. So it was a good week to not totally be glued to the television. But let's jump into this week. We're gonna start out tonight, Thursday night football. This one is a dud, in my opinion. Who's gonna score in this Denver New Orleans game?
Yeah, this is kind of like the battle of attrition, basically. Who's healthy? I mean, I haven't looked recently. I'm not sure if Sertain is playing.
Nope.
That's a player,
Oh,
I think, for the Broncos and that stellar defense. Is he not playing?
he's out.
Well, then that'll lead right into my next point. So the Broncos, I think, have a pretty decent defense. He's a shutdown corner. The Saints are playing with Spencer Rattler and then a trio of wide receivers I've like never heard. Like, who the hell is Bub Means? The guy's got a great name. Sounds like a superstar name, but I've never heard of the guy. I looked him up, and he's like,
Yeah.
he started at Tennessee, went somewhere else, and ended at Pitt. So yeah, yeah, I don't even know. It's Rattler versus Bo Nix. It's two rookies. It's could yeah, two good defenses. If you like defensive games, I mean the Saints have a good defense and the Broncos have a good defense. So that's honestly I didn't know what else to go with. Rattler looked okay from what I read about, and I saw a couple highlights from on Twitter. So I'm going Saints at home. I got nothing else to go off of.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm really taking the Saints just from the aspect that they're playing at home. Denver's favored, but I'm taking the Saints at home, and they looked okay in the bits that pieces that I saw in the second half. So I'll take New Orleans. I think it's going to be like a 15-12 game. It's going to be bad. um,
Yeah, it really could be. And look for Kamara to get a lot of dump offs probably.
yeah, he's probably going to be the star of the show. All right, let's move to Sunday. Jacksonville's still over in London doing their back-to-back games out there. They're going to be taking on New England. This is another two teams that are just pretty bad on offense so far this year.
Yeah, I have the Jaguars in this one. I know we had talked about on either Friday or Saturday this past week. The Jaguars like win in London. So, like you said, both these teams are not great. Drake May will have his second start underneath him. They're obviously looking towards their future. The Jaguars, you would think, would have to be in more of a win now mode with how Lawrence, at least at his age, he's been in the league. This is his third year, but I don't know if he's not panning out or the rest of the Jaguars' offense is just not panning out. But I don't know. Jaguars win in London, so I'm picking Jaguars.
They and the Jaguars as well. Drake May actually did not look horrible against Houston, but I still believe this should have been his first start. But I'll take Jacksonville. Next one, we got Seattle going out east and taking on the Falcons in that early morning 10 a.m. window.
West Coast teams struggle to travel east. Falcons are at home. It's an early morning game, so it's going to feel like it's even earlier for the Seahawks. So I like the Falcons. Bijan Robinson had a big breakout game, I thought, this year finally, with 2 touchdowns last week. So, yeah, I got the Falcons.
Yeah, taking the Falcons as well. Not much to add there. Seattle seems to be going the wrong direction. Tennessee going to Buffalo. Buffalo earlier this week traded for Amari Cooper. It's going to be interesting to see. Now they've got a legit veteran one back in the room. Who do you got in this one?
Yeah, I don't know if this will be the breakout for Cooper per se, just because he just got traded and probably won't know the entire offense. So they'll have him running probably simple plays to start, I would think. Maybe not. Maybe I'll be completely wrong. But the Bills, I think they're a weird team. I think they're a lot better than their record shows. So I like the Bills at home. I still think they're one of the better teams in the league. And like you said, they just got a star wide receiver to pair with Allen. So I like the Bills.
I like the Bills as well. I feel the same. I feel like it's going to take a week or two to get Cooper going, but this is definitely a good matchup to bring him in against. Tennessee's been terrible. It's a good warm-up game that the Buffalo Bills should not need him as much in. Next one, we got the Battle of Ohio taking place. Cincinnati going to Cleveland. Jameis, Winston, wrong quarterback completely. Deshaun Watson looking like he is kind of on his last leg here. He has yet to throw over 200 yards in any game this season. But Battle of Ohio, Cincinnati taking on Cleveland.
I don't know how many weeks we have to talk about Deshaun Watson needs to be out, but it's time to move on, Cleveland. Now, with that stat you just said about Watson, as we just talked about Cooper going to the Bills, well, the Browns are going to be without Cooper. So that offense is going to get even worse. Chubb, I think, might be making his debut. But again, he's coming off a super, super bad, really brutal knee injury. So I think the jury's still out on what he's even going to be. Knock on wood, hopefully he's great for our fantasy team. But, yeah, there's just nothing to like about the Browns. So I like the Bengals on the road.
Yeah, I like the Bengals as well. It's going to be interesting to see how they use Chubb, especially in a season only being week 7. It feels like a lost season for Cleveland. They may not push him too hard. One of the games of the week we're going to talk about next year, Houston going to Green Bay, both teams running in hot, both scoring a lot of points last week. Who do you got in this matchup that's happening up at Lambeau Field?
I like the Texans on the road. I think they just have a little bit better of a defense. I know the Packers are ball hawks and just intercept balls like crazy. But the Packers are a little banged up. I know Reed's been questionable here and there. Christian Watson, I know he had a pretty solid game. I mean, honestly, all the wide receivers had pretty solid games, minus Wicks against the Cardinals last week for the Packers. But the Texans, I really thought were going to drop in offense when Nico Collins went to the IR. Obviously, that didn't seem to be the case. So Mixon's back, and if they can establish a run game with Stroud's ability to throw the ball, I think they're showing that they could be one of the prolific offenses and even one of the better teams in the NFL. So I like the Texans.
I'm actually taking Green Bay in this one, and the only reason I'm taking Green Bay is it's happening in Green Bay. That's it. I feel like this is a toss-up game that could literally go either way. Both these teams have been playing good football. I'm just giving the edge to Green Bay because they're playing at home. but I could easily see Houston winning this one. Um, Going from that game to a game where we got quarterback question marks and everything like that going on. Miami going to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. We do not know who's going to be playing quarterback yet, but Flacco's been good, and AR has not. But who do you got?
The Colts came out and said that AR, Anthony Richardson's their guy when he's healthy, but I mean, the guy's so young and he's played in so few games. Flacco's not your long term starter, so if you're winning games with Flacco, why not keep using him? So I'm banking on Flacco continuing to start, and that's my reason why I'm picking the Colts.
Yep, and they get the Colts as well. It's hard to bet on Miami, seeing how bad they've been here these last few weeks. Another great game. Detroit going to Minnesota. Minnesota, one of the last two undefeateds in the league. Who do you got here?
I like the Lions on the road. I think they absolutely. Well, I don't think. They absolutely destroyed the Cowboys. And I will say this. I'm putting this out there. I think the Lions are the best team right now in the NFL. They also had a bye week to prepare for this game. So I think. I don't want to say the Vikings are frauds, but I'm still not sold on them as a 5-0 team yet. I want to see how they look in this game, but I like the Lions.
Yeah, I actually agree with a lot of things that you just said. Um, Detroit, after last week, just absolutely making Dallas look absolutely just horrible. It's going to be interesting with Hutchinson now out for the year. That's a big blow to that defense. But Detroit's got a lot of weapons, and they're a tough team to defend. I think Detroit gives Sam Darnold some problems, and they pull out the win. Philadelphia going to the New York Giants.
I like the Eagles. I'm still just not sold on some of the Giants' wins. Excuse me. There's that Albuquerque cough. Um, I think the Giants are just they're all neighbors, and if neighbors isn't playing or he's questionable, I don't know. The Giants are just not a good team. I think the Eagles have had enough time to prepare for this game, so I like the Eagles on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Eagles as well. I think Saquon Barkley has a huge game in his return back to New York. Going to the afternoon slate, we got the Raiders taking on the Rams. Two teams that kind of a hard idea of what the hell both these teams are at this point. But it's happening in LA.
One thing I'm going to say, I think I said the Lions were coming off a bye. I don't think
Minnesota's
that's
coming off a
true.
bye.
Minnesota's coming off a bye.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'd mentioned I like the Lions coming off a bye. I still like the Lions, but they're not coming off a
Yeah.
bye. As for this game, I like the Rams at home. I think the Raiders are just they're too preoccupied with the Adams trade. I know they got him out of there, and it's one of those like okay, he's not our problem anymore. But Aiden O'Connell's not really the guy. I don't know what the run game's like. I mean, Zamir might be healthy this week, which theoretically I'd like to think that helps them. Madison isn't like a stud by any means, and then I don't even know who they throw the ball to if it's not Brock Bowers. I couldn't even name you a wide receiver because I think Jacoby Myers might be out. So it's like Trey Turner or I don't even
Yeah.
know who. Anyways, Cooper Cup might be back this week, so that'll be huge for Stafford. I like the Rams at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Rams as well. The Raiders are just one of those 4 or 5 offenses right now in the NFL that they just can't move the ball. Like they just struggle to do anything on the offense, and it's hard to pick a team that seriously just can't move the ball. So I'd take the Rams. One of the easier, in my opinion, well, I just probably just jinxed this one, but what I think is one of the easier matchups of the week: Carolina going to Washington to take on the Commanders.
Yeah, this one's easy for me. Jaden Daniels, Commanders.
Yeah, I'm going to take Washington as well. And then here we go, game of the week. This is going to be the one that everyone's watching in the afternoon. Rematch of last year's Super Bowl. Kansas City heading to San Francisco. Who do you got in the Super Bowl from last year?
I like the Niners at home. I think even with Mason potentially not playing, it seems like the Niners are just one of those teams that Shanahan offense. It's like, yeah, CMC's a step above everyone else, but you can throw anyone in there at running back, it seems, and they can just run behind that offensive line. Um, yeah, I like the Niners. I think that the Mahomes magic finally, they can't win every game. I mean, and this is going to be the week that I probably should have stuck with my don't not bet on Mahomes, but I like the Niners at home, and I think it's more of a must win for them because they literally cannot afford to just fall too far in this NFC West division. Even though the rest of the teams aren't great by any means, but they need to start flexing as
Yeah.
being one of the best NFC West teams.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to take the Niners as well. Niners kind of coming off a mini bye, having played Thursday the week before. Kansas City coming off their true bye. Um, but I think San Francisco comes in with a little bit more fire. Kansas City, having won last year's Super Bowl, I don't feel like has as much to prove. San Francisco's got a lot to prove in this one, having struggled early here in the season. I think they come out with fire. They're going to have the home crowd behind them. Niners are favored by 1.5 at this point, so I'm going to take the Niners. I think it's going to be a really good game, very intense. I actually don't expect a lot of scoring. I think it's going to be a low-scoring battle of 17-13, something like that. I think both defenses lead the way. That is. Um, Sunday night football. This one got a whole hell of a lot more interesting. A lot of storylines going into this one. The Jets going to Pittsburgh. Adams now a Jet. Pittsburgh still trying to figure out their quarterback situation. Fields, Wilson. Wilson's practicing for the first time, and he's not on the injury report. We haven't heard who's going to start yet, but who do you got kind of in this almost two offenses that are redefining themselves away?
I know you had picked the Jets to win the division. I like the Steelers better with Justin Fields, but my pick is Jets, 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 Jets. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a little more fired up. He's got his buddy back with him to throw him the ball. He's got two buddies actually now. He's got Lazard and Devontae Adams. So it's almost like Green Bay just moving to, MetLife Stadium. So, new coach. I know they, put their defensive coordinator in as their interim. So Salah's gone, but I think a happy Rodgers is what they're, that new regime, I should say, is going after. So they're really trying to buy in on this could be Rodgers' last year. So let's make him happy. Let's actually go for it. So I like the Jets.
I got the Jets as well. Moving to Monday Night Football, we got two games. It's the Harbaugh Monday Night Football weekend of the year. The first one we got Baltimore taking on Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay.
I like the Ravens. I just think that they're going to be too much for the Bucks defense with Lamar Jackson, and their offense finally looked pretty solid last week. Zay Flowers got going. Obviously, they still like to run the ball as much as they can with Lamar and Derrick Henry, but if they can start throwing, it's one of those weird things where it's like normally you run the ball to open up the pass, but with the Ravens, it seems like if they can show a little bit of the pass, then teams are like, oh crap, and then they can just run all over them potentially. It's hard for me to pick the Ravens because Baker has been so damn good, and that Bucks team has been, I think, a lot better than anyone thought they would be. But I just like the Ravens here in this game.
I took Tampa. I literally flipped a coin. I could have gone either way. For me, this was the toughest one of the week. I went with Tampa, and I could see it going either way. Both offenses have been really good recently, and yeah, I'll just go Tampa. Last game, Chargers going to Arizona. Who do you got in the final matchup of the week?
So this one is like a coin flip to me. I know Marvin Harrison Jr. is a little banged up. I think he got concussed, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken. Not sure if he's going to play or not. Probably not with how trends go, especially these days. If you get concussed, it seems like you should probably sit out a game at least. But I don't think that's the end of the world because he only got targeted twice last week. And he seems to be a pretty hot and cold player with Murray. Like even though he's the number one receiver, he's not just peppered with targets every single game. The Cardinals' offense, from what I read about, was dog shit in Green Bay, so they need to bounce back. And the Chargers aren't like a dominant team, so I like the Cardinals just because they're my team and they're at home. I have no other reason.
Yeah, I got the Cardinals as well. I just feel like they're going to have a good showing at home. It's Monday Night Football. The only time Monday night I think comes to Glendale, so I'm going to say the fans are going to be excited and they're going to rally behind it. Kyler Murray is one of those guys where the crowd's behind him. He seems to play better, and this is one of those
Well,
few
they also seem
games.
like they're one of those teams too. They also seem like they're one of those teams where it's like, okay, so they go in and they beat the Niners, and then, not to say, I mean, we all picked Packers to win last week, but it's
Yeah,
like, who knows? They're unpredictable.
yeah, they're a little bit hot and cold. Putting the NFL to the side, let's move over to college football. Whole lot of excitement coming into this weekend as you know now we're week 8. We're getting closer and closer to the end of the season. We're kind of seeing who's going to be real and who's not. We got 5 matchups that we're going to just kind of rapid fire through. But before we do that, I just want to say one thing. I think this college football season has been very exciting. The conferences are weird. But we are in a stretch of 3 or 4 weeks here where we've had top 5 matchups. It's really cool. You know, Georgia, Alabama, sure, that happens a lot. But Ohio State, Oregon happening last week, the craziness there. And then this week, which we'll talk about in a second, we get Georgia, Texas. Some of this realignment, they talked about it for, months before the season started. The matchups that we're going to experience that don't usually happen have delivered and are creating quite a buzz. I know the two of us watch college football all the time, but for me, it's gotten a lot more exciting. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like we've talked about, and like I've said outside this podcast, you have weird matchups where it's like UCLA traveling to Rutgers or Rutgers traveling to UCLA, depending on scheduling and how that happens. And it's like, it seems odd from like a mileage and travel standpoint, but then you get the matchups because of that, like the Oregon Ohio States, and you just basically you take 5 power conferences and you mold it down into 4, and you just get much better matchups. And yeah, I really don't have much more to say to that. I mean, it's been a hell of a college football season. The
Mhm.
parity has been crazy, and I think a lot of that is due to like the NIL, which I think it's going to be the new normal. It's basically just AAA for the NFL. Like if you're not playing and you think you're good enough and you want to go somewhere to play and they're going to pay you money as a college kid, why wouldn't you take that opportunity? So yeah, I think we're it's like the pitch clock in baseball. I
Yeah.
wasn't first on board with it, and then it happened, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe baseball should have been sped up a little bit. NIL, I was like, paying college players. Well, yeah, I guess they do bring in a lot of revenue for these colleges. Moving conferences, okay, well, yeah, the Pac 12, as a Pac 12 fan, I don't know if it needed to go per se, but it's like, okay, why can't they ever get a deal done with DirecTV? Why are we creating this network, the Pac 12 network, where you literally can't watch it on anything but like Spectrum or, Dish? So, yeah, it's just, I think it's the first step towards an even more condensed
Yeah.
college football conference alignment. I don't think it's the end of, this isn't the end. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, we'll jump into some matchups. After thinking about it for a while, I realized this first matchup we're going to talk about was probably deeply influenced by the ASU grads at your wedding. But it technically is an elimination game, and they did beat Utah last week. But Arizona State 5-1, way better than everyone expected. Going to Cincinnati, playing a 4-2 team out there in Cincinnati. Who do you got in this one? Cincinnati's favored by 5. It's technically an elimination game. Whoever loses this is done.
I like Cincinnati just because they're at home, and I just hate ASU. But I will say this: as much as as being a U of A grad, props to ASU. They're playing phenomenal football. I did catch a little bit of that Utah ASU game. It was at the bar that we were all at drinking at Friday night. So taking away my U of A hat per se, No, ASU's playing great. I think Dillingham has that team, you know, pumping on all cylinders. I mean, Scatabo, however you say his name, he's a tremendous running back, and the Michigan State transfer at quarterback has actually been pretty solid. Unfortunately, I just think traveling out to Cincinnati is not going to do ASU any favors, so I like Cincinnati at home.
I'm going to take ASU here. I was impressed with their win about against Utah. This is, do I think they're going to go to the Big 12 championship? No, but they've deeply exceeded expectations, and I don't think we would have. Had I told you a month and a half ago that ASU, out of ASU, Colorado, Utah, U of A, out of the Pac-12 teams that went over to the Big 12, they would be the one that has the best record right now. I don't think anyone would have thought that. So they
Absolutely
have,
not.
they have definitely overachieved. I would have said they would have been the worst, but somehow they are the best at this moment. All right, big one here. SEC matchup. Number 7, Alabama going to Tennessee. Number 11. It's a big matchup. Who you got?
I like Alabama. I just think that they seem to squeak out these like close ones. I know they lost at Vanderbilt, but to me, Jalen Milroe is the best player on the field, and I think they squeak by again. By no means is Alabama gonna. I really like. I've talked very highly of this Tennessee team in the past, and I still think they're good. And were they on a bye this past week, or did they play?
I don't remember.
Because if they had a bye, that helps them out a little bit, just because they get to obviously game plan for 2 weeks. But my reasoning is Jalen Milroe is going to bail Kalen DeBoer out, which he seems to have done a couple times already this year. So I like Alabama.
Yeah, I'm going to take Alabama as well. I mean, I do know this. This is getting kind of scary for Tennessee. They've got a really good team. This really, really hurts them with the Arkansas loss. I'm double checking if they had a bye really quick as I'm like saying this. What date was this on? And it's not going to tell me a date. The last game was against Florida, and that was on the 12th. So no, they did not have a bye. They actually played last week. They played Florida. They won.
Okay.
The tricky thing
Okay.
with Tennessee is if they lose this game, they still play Georgia in a month. And if I got it right, they have to go to Georgia. They do. They have to go to Georgia. This is almost a must win for them. They almost have to, because are they going to get in the playoff with 3 losses? I don't know. That Arkansas loss really messed some things up. So they may come in treating this like an elimination game. Alabama potentially has a little bit more of a leeway. They could lose. I think Alabama's going to win. But Alabama has not looked good in 2 weeks now. They lost to Vanderbilt, and then they squeaked one out against South Carolina. I just feel like it's. And I'm playing probably the name game here. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna take Alabama. They haven't looked great. Tennessee probably comes in guns blazing, trying to win this thing by any measure. But I'm playing the name game. I'm gonna take Alabama to win. I don't know. That doesn't seem right, but that's where we're at. Um, Number 12, Notre Dame going to Georgia Tech. Notre Dame 12 seed, Georgia Tech 5-2. This is also an elimination game, probably for both teams.
I had Notre Dame, I believe, last week as a yes. I had them in my playoff. I think they win. I think that NIU game was a fluke, but that's how it happens. I mean, you only play once. It's not 99 out of 100 times Notre Dame wins that game, but NIU got that one win. So I like Notre Dame. I think that, like you said, it's probably an elimination game for both teams. And if Notre Dame wants to continue to have a chance at the playoffs, they have to win out. So this is a must-win for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I got Notre Dame as well. We got a top 25 matchup here in the Big Ten. 4-2, 24 ranked Michigan going to Illinois, ranked 11. They're 5-1. Illinois scored 50 last week on Purdue and really snuck one out. This is probably an elimination game for Illinois. Michigan, it's going to take a lot for them to get back in the mix. But who do you got?
I like Illinois at home. I don't think they're dropping 50. Michigan's got a good defense, but this is not the Michigan team that won the national championship last year. This is honestly kind of a gross matchup on paper. I mean, obviously you got Michigan, who's a big name. Illinois, I wouldn't really say they're typically known as a football school. To me, they're more of a basketball school, but hey, they're going for it. So I like what I've seen, and I like what they're going to do because I don't think Michigan's that great. So I like Illinois.
I'm also taking Illinois. Not too much to add there. Michigan's been kind of hot and cold on the offense. Actually, they've been very cold throughout the season. All right, this is the game of the week. Number 5, Georgia going to number 1, Texas. Who do you got? Big one.
Yeah, this one's well, they're all tough. Predicting everything's tough, but um, I like Texas. I like the fighting Matthew McConaughey's. I think Texas has just been overall the best team all year, and they've shown that by basically splitting time between not splitting time, but Ewers gets hurt and Arch goes in there and he doesn't miss a beat. So Ewers will be playing in this game, and he's a veteran. I mean, Arch is still kind of a kid. I guess they're all kids because they're in college, but Ewers has been around the block, and I think Texas is just gonna, this is a big game for them because if they can beat Georgia at home, this is hey, I belong in the SEC too.
Yep.
So I like Texas. I mean, this is gonna be a grudge match of a game in terms of like the O line and D line for both these teams are just insane. So this should be fun. I don't think it's going to be a super high scoring game. I think we'll get offense, but yeah, this is going to be a battle of the top dogs. So,
Yep.
but I'm not going with the dogs. I'm going with the Longhorns.
I'm going to go with the Longhorns too. I think if Texas wins this, I think you officially can lock in your first. They're going to make the playoff no matter what team. Um, they would be the first one. I mean, Oregon last week came pretty close for me to say lock it in. They've got to win probably. I don't see them. Oregon's weird. Let's just put that comment to the side. Texas win, you can pretty much lock them in. I'm gonna go with Texas. It's at home. Georgia's been a little shaky here and there. It's not the same Georgia we've seen over the years past. But Texas, up to this point, I believe has been the best team in college football. So until they prove me otherwise, I'm going to take Texas. Little fun fact for you because it's just funny to say. Urban Meyer has been the head coach of 5 teams. All 5 teams lost last week. Kind of a fun thing. So
That's a good one.
first time that's ever happened in Jacksonville, Ohio State, Florida, Utah, Bowling Green all lost. So not a good week for the Urban Meyer alumni. I'm guessing Fox probably lost somewhere along the way as well. Well, it's another week of football. James, anything to add before we sign off here?
Not really. Gonna go take some more Mucinex to try to clear this head cold up and get back at you. I don't even know what week we're on. What'll next week be? We'll get back onto our regularly scheduled programming next week, hopefully.
Well, actually,
I guess we will be on week.
I was about to mention that. Actually, next week we've got on Monday we're gonna have a special show. Start of the NBA season.
That is true.
Yeah, so we get.
NBA is starting up, so look for.
Yeah, so look next week. Next Monday we'll have the NBA show coming out, or Tuesday, and then obviously we'll be doing the following week for football as well. And we're getting close to the World Series as well. There's a lot of sports going on, so just keep your eyes peeled on it, and there's a lot of content coming your ways, guys. So I think that's it. Until next week, where we're covering
Yeah,
all
that's about it.
sports. We'll talk to you soon.